Hey out there, this is Old Buck Dave again, coming to you from wherever I am, and I have with me, I believe.
Old Buckdale.
Hey, good to hear you. Good to hear your voice again. Good to see you, buddy.
Good to be
So
back.
good to be back. Good to be back. Hey, listen, before we get into some serious segments here, I got a few shout outs here about some listeners we have in some new locations. I just want to recognize them.
Okay.
We have some new listeners in Union Corner, New Brunswick. That's Canada. That's still part of Canada.
Got a way out there, isn't it?
Way out there, yeah. Union Corner, New Brunswick. Next couple are town names that I love. New Eagle, Pennsylvania. New Eagle. That's nice.
Or Rolling Rock or, or
Well,
Slippery Rock.
and then there's Broad Ripple, Indiana. Broad Ripple. That's pretty nice too. And of course, Pasadena, California. That's where all the roses in the world are shipped to or something. Yeah. So,
Well, shout out to all our new listeners, and I hope our new Canadian listener will join the other Canadian listener. And
it's more than one, believe it or not.
anyhow, I'm glad they're listening to us. I'm glad they're enjoying the Old Bucks. I should give a big shout out to everybody in Normalville.
Oh, yeah, Normalville. We can't forget Normalville.
And they do know who they are.
They do. Yeah.
All those folks, great bunch of people. Love every one of them.
They're normal with pride. Yes, they are.
Yeah. Not unlike myself, normal.
Well, I don't know. Hey, listen, I want to give another nod here to another coffee shop. This is La Scola's coffee shop on Euclid Avenue. First time I stopped there this morning on my bike ride. Had some great iced coffee there. Hit the spot. Met some nice folks. A couple dogs sniffed me. Oh, it's nice. Wasn't too sweaty yet, so the dogs were. Yeah, they weren't that interested in me.
You kind of make some with those two little skinny wheels that you traverse the countryside with. You run into some really really interesting places.
I do.
Yeah.
It's fun. It's fun. Speaking of interesting places, this is for you Canadian listeners out there. Now we don't want to tick off either of those Canadian listeners.
Both of
them. But can you please call your geese home? Like, are the Canadian geese banned from coming back across the border? I don't know. I thought you could fly across the border as long as you didn't drive. I'm riding on the trail along the river there, and there's goose crap everywhere.
Oh, maybe they just stopped in.
They're very belligerent too. They'll go after you. It's very un-Canadian. I don't know what to do about them.
I think they're used to. I think they're used to civilization or something, because we've wiped out all their remote places. So
they sure seem to like it on the bike trail. Oh man, they're leaving their golden nuggets everywhere.
That's why you have thin tires.
Oh, it's terrible.
With those thin tires, you can just skate between those things. So anyhow, you had a good day. You got a nice new coffee shop.
I had a nice morning. Yeah, I saw met another coffee shop. Put it on the list here. We'll have to go there sometime. Hey, anyway, you mentioned a neighbor of yours the other day, somebody you ran into that you found quite fascinating. You told me a little bit, but hey, tell me more, so everybody else can hear it at the same time I do.
Well, this is a story. I don't even know how to preface this, but it's a story some of our listeners might really tune into. This all started with a little bit of a gardening project that was going on in the neighborhood. And there was some 6 bags of black mulch. I mean, just mulch,
mulch,
like the red mulch, brown mulch, the stuff you lay around your plants and so on and so forth. And this man who is 90 years old.
90 years old.
And still quite fit.
That's older than us.
Hey. He's still quite fit, still quite strong.
Mm-hmm.
I found out later that he has had 4 knee replacements and 2 hip replacements. Yeah,
jeez, he's like the bionic man.
He's got some kind of an assistant, some kind of electrical assistant in his spine that allows him to tolerate the pain during the day or something. But Anyhow, remarkable fellow in the physical sense. But so he says to me, he said, "Would you move that? Could you move that mulch?"
Mm-hmm.
I said, I said, "Yeah." I said, "But if you want to just get out of, get it out of your road or something, I just throw it over there or move it over here or something." He said, I can't do it." I
Well, I
said,
mean, he's pretty old.
"Well, I was thinking the same thing." He said, "No." He said, "I can lift it. I can see it. I can move it."
Okay.
He said,
Mm-hmm.
I can't bring myself to look at it or touch it." And then
And that's because, yeah.
I said, "Geez, so what happened? I mean, why do you why have such an aversion to this?" He said, as a little boy, of 12, my jobs my job was to clean the ovens at Treblinka.
Oh, you're kidding. Jeez.
And he said, "You know where that is? What that is?" I said, "I do."
Oh, man.
Well, needless to say, I took care of it. I moved it, but I thought about that, and I started to talk to this man. Very, very interesting fellow. So basically, I said, "Tell me, you know, okay, I understand sort of the early part." And I said, "But what happened after that?" Well, it turns out that after the war, he basically was just another homeless kid in wandering around Europe, when he said that a couple of nuns from a from a monastery adopted him, and
Wow.
so he learned to speak 7 languages. And I said, "Why did you learn 7 languages?" He says, "It's the only way we could talk to each other. We had to learn their language." So I am totally like captivated with this gentleman.
I guess. My gosh.
Well, it turns out that after the war, he somehow makes his way back to America, or gets to America.
To America. Okay.
He gets to America where he has a friend. It's just an amazing story of survival. He has a tremendous amount of different discipline. Every line should be straight. Every saw blade, every cut should be perfect. And he ended up building houses. He ended up getting a PhD
Oh,
in languages, and he taught school, and he's written things, and
holy cow.
I'm just marveled. He can play the piano. He was just an amazing case of survival. In fact, he told me that for 16 years he traveled around America and all North America in a motorhome, working his way here and there.
Hmm.
And he said he did some work on national parks. And I said to him, I said, do you think after all those places and things, there's a plaque with your name on it?" He said, "Sure, there's probably several." He said, "I think my name's on the plaque on the Statue of Liberty."
Huh,
Almost,
really?
I
Wow.
almost broke into tears. And then he was drafted into the U.S. Army, and he was sent to Korea. And so you're thinking, with all the, now the education part came, of course, after Korea,
Mm-hmm.
but he did get, I jumped ahead on that part, but he did get to Korea. And I said, "Well, what did you do?" And he said, "I was in demolition." I'm thinking, after surviving a war,
Oh,
all that he got there, he's in demolitions, basically demining, blowing up ordnance and stuff like that. And that's when his hand went up to his eye and he rubbed his eye.
oh man.
He said, those young boys, they just didn't pay attention. They were so young. And he said, "They called me the old man."
Hmm.
I said, "How old were you?" He said, 23.
23. The old man. Wow.
And he survived that. He got a battlefield commission. Anyhow, the story is just endless. If you mention something to him, he's probably did it or seen it.
Wow, that's amazing.
Pick a language: French, Greek, German, you name it. And but I was very, very considerate in asking him questions, because there was clearly a lot of things he would talk about and some things he wouldn't. But I don't know. Somebody should interview this man before he passes away. He's a walking piece of history. And
Well, I mean, geez, I'd be great if he would be interested in doing that with us. But you know,
I don't know. He's very, very humble. He's a very humble somebody.
You kind of caught me off guard here. You had mentioned before he had a bunch of transplants. I thought we were going to have a funny story or something, but boy, this guy's had quite a life.
Oh, by the way, and you
Quite
know
a
what he
life.
does for entertainment? He has an old friend about his age, give or take a year or two, and he goes ballroom dancing
Wow.
once a month. And his stature, he's only about 5'4", 5'5", 5'6", something like that. He's barely up to
Mhm.
my chin. But I just feel so honored to have met a man who survived all that.
Wow.
Anyhow,
Yeah.
that's my story. His
That's
name is Gus. And if somebody wants to hear about Gus, write to us and maybe we can tell you a little more
maybe
about
we
him.
can maybe we can get more spend more time with Gus. He's probably
What a
got
fellow.
an incredible
What a
number
fellow.
of stories.
Mm.
Makes us feel like we've gone through life with blinders on or something.
So,
Anyway, well, thank you. That's not what I was
something to think
expecting.
about.
That's something to think about. Yeah.
Makes you glad you have what you have or something.
Yeah.
How do you survive all that?
Man,
Jeez.
oh man. So hats off to Gus. He's an ancient buck. That's man, oh man.
Yeah, he's a genuine old buck. So what do you got on the lighter side, Dave?
Well, on the
Anything?
lighter, we'll get a little lighter here. You remember the amusement park that we used to go to back in the days, the school picnic?
Do I ever? Start with a K.
Starts with a K. Kennywood.
Kennywood.
Kenny-
People in Normalville know Kennywood. I'm telling
People
you.
in Normalville probably go to Kennywood. It's still
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
Yeah.
It is still there, right? It is.
It is still there.
Yeah.
Yeah. In
Oh,
fact,
my.
I'll tell you how still there it was in a minute. But you remember back, like if you and your date would wear matching shirts to Kennywood. You remember
Oh,
that?
my.
Yeah.
Oh,
You like
my.
going? It was like going steady for a day or something like that.
Yeah, and throwing the ring over the Coke bottle was such a
Throwing the rings on
challenge.
the Coke
I was
bottles,
prepared to put some serious money down to win that teddy bear for your girlfriend or
eating
something.
potato patch fries, riding the coasters. Man, oh
Yeah.
man.
Oh, yeah. What's the
Yeah.
name of the coasters? Do you remember the names?
They've got 8 coasters now, including one in Kittyland. I don't know if I can name them all, but of course, there was
Was it Lightning or something? Wasn't it
the Jackrabbit
the Jackrabbit?
is the oldest one that's still there. It was built in 1920. It's over 100 years old.
Wooden one too. No,
It's a
that's
wooden one, yeah.
Yeah.
And then the Racer came along in 1927. See, I did a little bit of homework here. And the Racer is, of course, it's 2 trains that race against each other.
Oh, they start together. That's
They
right.
start
That's
together,
right.
and
Yeah.
one or the other always wins. So you're always rooting for your train to win.
Your
And they
cars.
do a Moebius band, because the one that starts on the left ends up on the right, and vice versa. So that's pretty clever.
Ah,
And let's see. Then there's the Phantom's Revenge.
that's
It
new to me.
Used to be called the Steel Phantom. And that's the one that drops down into that ravine. Kennywood is built like on a hillside,
Top of a hill, yeah. or
top of a
something.
hill that drops down to the river, and it hits 86 miles an hour
No,
on that 230 foot drop.
see, that's what I found interesting. That instead of on a flat surface, you'd have to build a real high scaffolding or something to loop around or something.
Yeah,
on it.
yeah.
But this thing went off the edge of this cliff.
Man, you
straight
thought you were
down-
going to
yeah,
die. Like,
straight
where
down
are we
towards the
going
river,
here?
and it
Yeah.
somehow managed to swirl its way back up. So it was like
man.
already a pre-made
Yeah.
death spiral there. So.
Yeah, yeah, and of course the Thunderbolt. That's I guess that's the newest wooden coaster, and it's pretty old. It used to be the Pippin, remember?
Oh yeah, the Pippin.
That shook the heck out of you. Jeez.
They didn't have a little where you walk through the houses and ghosts jumped out at you.
Oh yeah. There was the old mill.
Yeah.
Noah's Ark.
Noah's Ark is still there.
Noah's Ark is still there.
Oh my.
Laugh in the Dark is no longer there, but they've got another. They call them dark rides. Apparently, Kennywood has maybe the most dark rides of any amusement park.
And that being where you go into a sheltered structure and sort
yeah.
of.
So
the
you're going
tracks
through
are
somewhere
dark,
in the
yeah.
dark, and
Mm.
for whatever reasons, yeah. Now their newest coaster, I believe, is the Steel Curtain, and this baby has 9 inversions. Can you imagine that? 9 inversions?
I don't think I'd had the courage to do that when I was 18. So
Wow. One of these is 197 feet tall. It's the tallest in the world. It hits 76 miles an hour on the way down.
So it not only survived, it thrived, so to speak. It has improved. It's modernized. It's still there. And you went there apparently recently, or you wouldn't know about it.
I just went there last week. Yeah, yeah. I went there with my son, one of my sons, and my grandsons. These are the 2 grandsons that we featured on the Bucks a couple months back. Interview.
These are little guys.
Little guys, yeah, they're 5 and 7.
That would have been a ride. I'm just thinking about you guys laughing and all 4 of you.
You know, when I used to take my sons to the coasters, they became coaster junkies right away. Oh. They loved the coasters at Kennywood, and then we ended up planning vacation. You know, we'd go to Cedar Point and Kings Island, Hershey Park, Idlewild, Busch Gardens, even Disney World, which, by the way, has the wimpiest coasters around. That's you don't go to Disney for the coasters. You know, and my sons used to just love it. And so getting back there and watching him take his 2 boys on the coasters was just, you know, it was great. You know, they're absolutely
what a thrill.
They're totally infected with the coaster virus, man. You know, the 5-year-old.
What a lovely story.
We started him out in Kiddieland, and then by mid-morning, it's like, okay, you know, enough of this stuff. And he's going with his dad and his brother, and they're going down the wooden coasters. And then I went down a couple of the wooden coasters with them, and they went down the big steel coasters. The 5-year-old couldn't go on some of them; he was too short.
That wooden coaster still makes all the clickety clacks.
It's just. Oh man!
You're just thinking this thing is shaking apart.
Downhill, and then it hits a bend, and I was thinking, oh, there go all my vertebrae, man. They're just gonna come out the side of my neck or something. But
for all our listeners out there, that is, that's quite a thrill to do that under those circumstances. I would think they'd be happy for you, and probably want to try something like that with their own grandchildren and children.
Oh yeah, it was great. They are absolutely ready to come back next year and do it again.
So you're ready to give a big shout out to Kennywood Park?
Big shout out to Kennywood. You know, started in 1895 or something like that. 1899, I got it. It was Kennywood was opened because it was at the end of the Mellon's trolley line. You know, the Mellon family.
Right.
They had a trolley line, and it ended there in West Mifflin, and they were trying to think of a way to increase the weekend revenues for the trolley line. So they built an amusement park there. They leased the land from the Kenny family, hence the name Kennywood. So you're learning all kind of stuff here. It was just absolutely a ball. Loved every minute of it, even though it was a little bit hot and a little bit crowded.
You know, I might have a reason to go there again. I think you're just tickling my fancy.
I'll buy you some potato patch fries.
There's a couple old bucks out there.
A couple old bucks there might remember.
I know are still alive.
Couple vintage vixens that have probably been there. Yeah. So,
well, that's a wonderful, wonderful story.
Shout out to Kennywood and all the amusement parks out there. Get them while you can, folks.
Yeah, do it while you're able. Right. Yeah.
So,
good follow-up story. Love it.
Moving back to you.
Oh.
You had mentioned something about your African experience.
Oh. Okay.
I think we've talked about that earlier, that you spent some time living in Africa.
I did, so I have an inkling of what's going on.
You had kind of a mini rant here that you wanted to talk about.
Actually, there's a situation going on over there in a little country called Eswatini, and it is a member of the British Commonwealth, and it has the only absolute monarch left, I guess, in the world as a king.
Uh-huh.
And there was some circumstances over there that I thought would have merited some BBC coverage. but it didn't. So I thought maybe the two old bucks would give a news flash that anybody who wants to Google that situation here, they can see what's going on over there. In a way, it's kind of a sad case. A small little place has everything going for
formerly
it.
known as Swaziland for people out there who may be scratching their head about Eswatini. Eswatini, is that it?
Yeah, they call Eswatini. It means land of the Swazi, I think, in the local language. But basically, I mean, the old bucks only have 11 employees, 10 of which are Dave, and we don't have no foreign correspondents
yet.
And yet, and we're on top of the story, but none of the news outlets anywhere, BBC, CBS, nobody made any mention. And it's probably a story that's worthy of public television's Downton Abbey. You know what I mean?
This is another case where the royal family has been in charge for 100 years or 80 years or something. And they're milking the populace.
Typical scenario, right out of a Hollywood or BBC story, but nothing from the big news people. So I just letting you know the old bucks are first. Then we're the first one to announce that. It's sad to see that happen, but as Mel Brooks once famously said, "It's good to be the king." and if you see his old movie of how the king acted in his movie, you might get an inkling of what's going on there. Anyhow, I need to say no more about that. I'm going to see if he really listens to us. If those newscasters are listening to us, somebody ought to check into that. We have an embassy there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think
did you ever work at that embassy?
Oh, I might have passed through it once.
You might have passed through it. Okay.
All right. There. I mean, I went through a lot of them while I was there, but so there's still some grapevine that trickles into phone.
Yeah.
My phone.
So not to make light of this whole thing, but
no,
I'm expecting within the next couple of weeks, CBS is going to do a report on this.
If anybody's listened to
they're like 2 to 4 weeks behind us on everything.
And say, what's going on there?
They just did a big story on NFT this morning.
And we covered that a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
Well,
man, I'm telling you, we got those Manhattan listeners. They're just like leeches. They just take all this stuff.
Right in Times Square, they immediately run into the office. All the people listening to the old bucks, they might say, those guys, they thought of this stuff first. We had podcast card tricks and stovetop art and NFTs. We tried to explain that one. I don't think we did a good job.
We try.
But we were out there, and that's true. So they can look that up.
We're at the cutting edge.
Google that, and you'll see what we're talking about. It's right out of, like I said, a BBC. I don't know why those guys are not
Eswatini
checking it out. Yeah, they are. They're a member of the British Commonwealth. You think they'd be on it? And they have a king and queen over there. No, I have a queen. Maybe for a while.
She's still alive.
Yeah, she's still alive. So. All right, enough. We don't usually touch on those serious subjects like that.
Yeah, we got a lot of serious stuff going on today. Hey, being less serious, but actually, I do have a BBC connection here on this next thing that I wanted to talk about. Now, as you recall, we've had a couple episodes where we've talked about scammers and what we can do to deal with scammers, both the phone scammers and the computer scammers. And there are some things we can do. The providers can do some filtering, and they do that. You find a lot of this stuff in your trash bin. You don't have to move it to your trash bin. So they've filtered out most of it, but they're still there. You still have to deal with them. And then, of course, on the computer, you also got these guys shooting pop-ups at you saying that your antivirus is expired and for $100, da-da-da-da. So,
I'm aware.
Yeah, but here's the interesting thing. I got a letter from Old Buck Logan. All right, he sent me a note about somebody who's actually done something about this. All right, now this is a guy, his name is Jim Browning. And when they sent him a pop-up, and I don't remember exactly what it was about his insurance expiring or whatever.
His car warranty.
Yeah, they sent it to the wrong guy, because this guy is kind of like a techno geek hacker in the best sense, okay?
Oh.
And he was able to reverse the connection with them. And they had closed-circuit TVs in their shop where they were running these illicit operations in Delhi, India. And he filmed all this stuff through their closed-circuit TVs and recorded it all. So he's got audio and video, and it's just incredible what he has collected. It shows these people running the scams on people, and they're going back and forth, and the bosses back in the corner shelling out the money, and it's just amazing. And he's got 4 videos. I'm going to put a link out there to the first video. The first video has a link to the other 3. And then more interesting, he said, I'm just a little guy. There's nothing I could do really against these guys. And he contacted the BBC and said, hey, you guys be interested in this. The BBC in turn jumped on it. So here's one where the BBC was interested.
Oh, yeah.
All right. And they made their own big documentary, which he also has a link to. And they in turn worked with the local police, and they got those guys arrested. And they've got videos of these guys being cuffed, and they shut down their operation. So of course, there's 1,000 of them, 1,000 more that popped up. But
this guy ought to show these other people how to do that to these.
It was just incredible. So I think the listeners ought to read that in the liner notes and take a look at that, because it's just fascinating. Here's somebody who actually was able to do that. So one small step for man, I guess.
Why don't these computer guys? I mean, maybe there's a reason they don't, but wouldn't that change everything if there was a way? I mean, it may be very sophisticated, and you had to either have the equipment or send it to somebody, but you simply was able to trace it all the way back to its source. Now,
that's what he did.
But I mean, what if there was a way to do that for the average, all this other stuff that goes on? I mean, some of these, people that make all kind of comments anonymously on some of the social media or something like that. I mean, that'd be an interesting prospect if you could go right back and say, oh, there he is. There's a guy right over here. There he is.
Maybe,
right here.
Yeah, maybe we could get Jeff Bezos to maybe funnel like 2 minutes worth of his income to doing something like that. I don't know.
I think Jeff has got that all in his personal cloud. He knows who's who.
He knows who you are and where you are. Yeah.
I mean, they can, after you buy one book from Amazon, you get hundreds of offers for other books that they think you'd like, so they know who you are. So,
yeah.
Well, that's interesting. Let's see if that works out.
So I think that'll be something fun to watch. So I advise all of our listeners to take a look at that. You'll enjoy it.
See if
it's like here's one for the good guys.
Yeah. And you heard it on the Old Bucks.
You heard it on the Old Bucks second after BBC. Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty much all I want to say about that. I don't know what other things we want to talk about today. The coffee's starting to get cool here. I noticed we did miss the Pennsylvania Firefly Festival this year. So
the Firefly?
The Firefly. This was the 9th annual.
This is not to be confused with the Lanternfly.
This is different than the Lanternfly. This is the Firefly, the little lightning bugs, as we used to call them.
Yeah, the lightning bugs. There you go. Now I know what you're talking about.
So here's the bad news. The Firefly population is way down.
Yeah.
Way down.
You hardly ever see them anymore.
Yeah, and they're attributing this to a couple things. Number one, all the pesticides that are being used, taking out a lot of fireflies. And the other thing is the encroaching city lights into their environments. Okay,
true. It has to be dark.
They attract each other by the flashing attracts the male and the female to each other.
Kind of a Morse code.
If there's too much man-made light out there, they'd have a hard time seeing each other. So anyway,
beep 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 beep. Hey, I remember vividly running around with a mason jar. Because those guys flew they flew slowly, and you could just and now I feel bad about all those ones I caught. I should have left them loose. They contributed to their demise. The 10 or 12 that of course, you get tired of doing that, so you don't catch thousands of them. But I remember catching them in a little jar, and they would light up.
So
And
if
I
we
said-
get any other bucks out there that have any, or vixens that have any firefly stories, let's, send them to buckstwoold@gmail.com.
Hey, Dave, I'm thinking to myself, you catch these things and there's maybe 6 or 7 of them in your jar and they're blinking and it's actually, quite visible light. And I'm thinking, man, if we could only come up with something that would light like that.
Yeah. Just think how big the firefly would have to be. God.
Well, I mean, if he was
like Godzilla firefly.
Well, it's a
I don't know.
chemical, but they do have that now.
Yeah,
They have a
yeah.
chemical light that, you used to break those tubes
Oh,
and
yeah,
see that
yeah,
green
yeah.
light. So we
Yeah.
did come up with a method to do that, but if now those bugs probably could have little tiny LEDs. They wouldn't even have to worry about the chemical
Yeah.
contribution, develop some kind of a portable battery. So anyhow, that's a good story.
Yeah.
It's a nice lighthearted story.
Yeah. Well, you know what I think?
You think what? Time to go?
I think it might be time to go at this point. Yeah, I think the coffee's cold.
Okay.
It's time to move on. So
It was a heavy episode.
we had
episode.
yeah,
A lot of thinking.
Again, hats off to Gus. Yeah.
Yeah.
Geez.
So old
Anyway.
Buck Dell,
And this is Old Buck Dave.
and goodbye.
Stay happy out there, buddies and vixens. Bye-bye.
Hey, I wanted to before we leave, I wanted to say to you good luck on your job interview on Monday, and certainly if you need a reference, give them my name because
Yeah, believe it or not, I do have a job interview tomorrow. Some guys never learn. So
Well,
I think that's all we're going to tell them at this point, because I may not get the job, then it would be
you
embarrassing.
may not get the, even though you're technically an expert at this type of work.
In my mind, I'm a wizard. Yeah.
In your mind, you're a wizard.
In my mind, yeah.
Yeah. So
anyway,
we shall see. There's
We'll
a
see.
hanging Chad right there for you.
There's a segment waiting to be
developed.
born. Yeah, absolutely.
Remember,
All right.
folks, we're both 75 years old.
We can't even remember that. That's the problem.
Don't wear the plaid suit.
Don't wear your stripes and plaids together, Dave. Yeah. All right.
All right, buddy.
All right,
Good
we're
luck
done
to you.
with it. All right, man. Thank you.